righty.
How do you got to start it? Is it already going?
What's already going?
It's already going.
Filming.
But I haven't hit it.
I haven't
hit the timer yet. I'm really tired.
We don't need a timer. We can
Marty,
just go by the
1,
Holy
1,000,
Spirit.
2, 1,000,
No
3,
timer.
1,000, 4, 1,000.
Are you going to
5,
keep talking,
1,000,
Dan?
6.
Making me uncomfortable.
Give me an hour.
Do you want to do the intro? Do you want to kick us off?
Oh, I forget. Is there a certain way we kick off?
Not today.
Oh. Welcome to the Chaffin Church Podcast with Ryan Thompson and Martin Holman.
Martin Holman and Ryan Thompson.
Or Martin Holman and Ryan Thompson with special guest Daniel G. Keohane.
Did you seriously get your name wrong? Is that a thing?
It happens all the time. Actually, I called my
Other
father.
people, not you.
You never know. Well, I called my dad once and I said, is our name, he got so mad, is our name Keohane or Keohane? He got so mad at me. Rightfully so.
Right.
Is it Keohane or
I don't know.
Wait a minute. He would have answered you.
He said, shut up, Dan.
Which syllable
That's so sad.
does
Which
the
syllable?
emphasis go on?
Well, in Ireland, it's Keohane. So we'll just say Daniel G. Keohane.
Okay.
Hey, you don't say the G, actually.
Well, thanks for joining us. I mean, we've had some great podcasts over the last few weeks. In fact, the bar is so high, I don't think we're coming close to those.
Don't worry, we're not coming close. They have been awesome. They have been really awesome. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite moment?
Oh, well, when the two guys from Scrubs were talking about the pilot episode. Oh, wait, that's the wrong podcast. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know. You called me on the spot. I don't know. I know they're all good. Something about Angela, when Angela Rogers was on. Oh, were you on that one?
I wasn't. As a matter of fact, Ryan said it was his worst one and he hated it. So I'm not sure.
No, there was something about that topic, that conversation. It was good, but they were all good.
Angela, I did not say that.
It's true. He did not say it. He did not say it at all.
If anyone, the worst one was when Marty returned.
Which is totally possible. Even though I add life and personality. Ding.
He does.
Hey, if you haven't checked out, this is your first time, thank you for checking out the Chaffin Church podcast. Please head to YouTube or any podcasting platform. Specifically, though, we like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But anyone, and rate, review, and subscribe. Leave a little review. Let us know. Let us know your favorite moment, because apparently, as a fan, Dan doesn't have one that really stood out. So he's saying he liked it, but maybe it's just for the camera.
No, I like the fact that I'm still listening to it every week.
Every week?
And I go, yeah, I do. Every week I listen to it. By the way, can you review on Spotify now?
I think that's one of the places you can't review.
Yeah, I know. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, so it's okay.
We still like you, Spotify people.
I'm no Joe Rogan. I knew you would give a bad look to that.
You're not Joe Rogan.
Is that the coffee guy?
And that's why I still go to church.
Oh, guys, I have a question for you as we get started. If you could travel anywhere today, where would you go? Anywhere. Like you could leave this church premises, 155 Shrewsbury Street in Holden, and go and enjoy yourself for any length of time today. Where would it be?
Well, I would like to start by saying I know where it is you would go because it is really hot in here. I saw Marty playing with the thermostat ahead of time.
Oh, it's freezing in here earlier.
It's freezing in here.
It was freezing in here earlier, but now it feels like Florida in July, and we are here. Yeah, I think for me, it would be, I've always wanted to see Canada, like the whole thing. Like I've never actually...
Canada.
Oh, there you go. That's the correct emphasis.
Canada.
Canada. So I really want to see just Canada. I've never really taken the time to drive around, fly around up there. So yeah.
I think that sounds like the most boring time I've ever heard in my entire life. Bland, vanilla. Are you serious? You can go anywhere and you say Canada.
Daddy and Daddy are fighting.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful country. I've been there.
today. It's October.
Oh.
You would probably freeze
October?
the
Well,
That
tundra.
changes things.
Maybe.
I mean, I guess in general, I guess I didn't specify like season. So what you're saying is you generally you like the idea of traveling Canada.
Yeah, like I'm not really like everyone's like dream vacation is like tropical paradise island or whatever, and
Yeah.
I just can't stand that that whole thing.
The Swedish part of you gets in the way, and
Oh, sand in the
Like I would rather be like in the fjords of Norway than like, on some beach in Tahiti. Like
Yeah,
don't
I
know,
get it.
That's just my
well, that's
thing.
cool. I have my dad, who's been on the show, right? Who will be on the show in a few weeks, actually.
Really?
Yes,
Really?
he'll be here.
Oh, cool.
News to me.
What?
This is news to me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have some big things coming up. You can't wait. My dad, his board, when he was pastoring at a church, before he retired, right, pre-COVID, the chairman of his deacon board decided that he needed to learn fishing. And so he took him literally 1,500 miles north. They drove with several guys, and they went up to Saskatchewan, like way up into the territories where they went like ice fishing.
Whoa.
It was like the fall, like this, and I'm like, "Did you like it, Dad?" Because my dad, I mean, I never went fishing growing up. We bonded on the basketball courts of life, and he's like, "Well, wasn't horrible, but I wouldn't do it again."
But it's experience.
It was an experience. Speaking of experience, where would you go?
I don't know about this particular moment because of the weather, but Ireland. And Ireland and England. My daughter Audrey went a semester in Ireland, and then we had the chance, one of us, to go, but I let Linda go. So I know that one of these days I heard all these good things about it, especially Dublin. I get family, half my family's from Ireland, from Cork, County Cork. But I also want to go to London, but I can't. What I want to do if I go there, I can't do, is go visit Pinewood Studios, where they filmed all the shows I grew up with. But they don't do studio tours.
What did you grow up in?
What did I grow
What
up
shows?
in?
Like, give me an example of a show.
Like Space 1999, UFO, these science fiction shows from the 70s. Any British show was filmed in
Doctor Who?
Doctor Who, big Pinewood Studios. They actually, Aliens was filmed in Pinewood Studios. I was
Really?
just watching the documentary on it. Yeah, because they needed to cut the budget, and it was cheaper if you go over, you get these incentives to go to England, so they filmed it in, I just learned that recently. But Pinewood Studios, all the James Bond movies, all the movies you've grown up with.
So Pinewood, that's like the
the
Hollywood of the UK.
It's the Hollywood of the UK. Yeah, almost everything is filmed in there, but it's very closed. It's very tight. You can't get in there.
Why?
I don't know. They just said this is all pre-COVID. I've been planning on someday to go, and I go, I can't. But Ireland, London, the only problem is when I go there, there's no subtitles in real life, so I'll never understand what anybody's saying.
Hey,
Because I watch all these British shows, but I got to watch them with subtitles.
And you got to pronounce your last name right first.
No, I'd say Keohane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wait, is that it?
that's the Irish pronunciation.
Oh, Keohane.
Keohane.
All right.
Keohane.
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 I refuse to call you that. I need you to know that.
Call me Dan.
Dan, he's our man. If he can't do it,
Great.
This is America.
America.
Dan is our last speaker today from a long line of speakers from our church leadership.
Hopefully not our last speaker ever. That would be sad.
I mean, you never know. There could be some sort of, over the process of this next week, maybe
Meteor?
some sort of meteor or destruction. I mean, maybe even right now, Bruce Willis could be up saving us from certain death and also saving the relationship between Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler.
Hopefully it will also. Oh yeah,
It's
we're all still
beautiful,
crying.
man.
And it will also spawn another of the greatest slow dance songs of all time.
'cause I don't want to miss a thing.
It's pretty good, Mark.
Thank you.
Pretty good.
Thank you. So, anyways, Dan, I think last week we kind of did this too. We get into this banter, and we kind of forget that the person is here.
That
Well,
happens
Joe,
to me all the time.
Last
don't
week,
worry.
we had like 18 minutes of just, I don't even remember what we were talking about last week.
It was
but
good, whatever it was. It was
very good.
And Joe, but he's so quiet, and he just took it, and then he talked the last half.
Yes, you made up for it.
He made up for it. He's like, all right, boys.
Yes,
Stepping
children, quiet down, daddy's talking.
So, anyways, so he is going to be, or is, preaching, and please don't preach.
I'm going to preach.
He's going to preach
Friends, welcome to the house of God.
on worshiping every day.
See?
Worshiping every
I
day.
heard a weird sound.
So, when you say worshiping every day, Dan, how does that work? What does that look like to worship? I mean, because don't we just come here on Sundays and we get our worship on and we leave?
Well, I think that it's like two parts. I mean, the first part is what's worship? What does that even mean? You know, because I mean, I'm from a Catholic background. That term worship originally was instilled kind of a reverential kind of, you know, you hear monks chanting in the background. But in the Protestant world, worship generally means when the music's playing. You know, it's time for worship. Let's play a song. But it is an opportunity. Worship can be playing music. Worship, let me just encapsulate it first. Worship is publicly, in my opinion, it doesn't have to be, but that's kind of the point of what I'm talking about today, is publicly reaching out your faith to God among other people and thanking Him for everything He's done, for showing your need for Him in a way, like for example, but when we're here singing, we got a song, we got singing, some people put their arms up, some people sing, but they don't do the arm thing. I'm going to use maybe it's a Catholic term, but adoration in a way. Jesus had a great example where he pointed at somebody who I think was a tax collector. I don't know if he was pointing or he was using it as an example, but he shows the Pharisees with all the fancy raiments and the outfits and I am holy, right? But then he points to this guy who's on the floor in the back, beating his chest saying, forgive me, God, I'm a sinner. Mm-hmm. You know? He goes, that's the way you worship. You know, in humility, you acknowledge God as your creator and as your center of your life. And so it seems like something you would do corporately as a group, you know, but it's really a lifestyle. It's a constant reminding yourself that you need Jesus, you need God. Nobody else can do it perfectly, you know. God's done so much, even in the bad times. So
okay, so let's be real here for a second.
Yeah.
Like here, people come and sing, and even like I even wonder about the connection between like concerts. Have you ever been like towards the front row of a concert,
Right.
and people are all singing together and they're looking up and the lights are kind of shining down? Kind of has this like worshipy feeling. But what kind of question I'm going to ask here? Like, you wouldn't do that on the street or at your job or whatever. Like, oh,
yeah.
oh yes, praise God. Right? You wouldn't do that. So are those two different types of worship? Like how do you worship in that? Like, I don't understand.
Well,
I guess I do understand. I don't want to play the fake question.
I'm going to toss you a softball. No, that's not the word, is it?
Yes,
it
I
is.
think so.
And it's, although it's not a softball question. It's I'll jump ahead to what I was going to talk about in the sermon, or what I am talking about as you listen. But it's Jesus summed up. Okay, let me back up. Worship, in my opinion, is, and I think I said it, but it's admitting openly that you need God, that
Yes.
you love God, that you appreciate Him. How you show that is all over the place. You can do it with the arms up. If you do it out in the street corner, people, might walk the other way. But how you live your life, if you look at Mark 12, I think I got the number right. In Mark chapter 12, Jesus is asked a question, what are the top commandments? What's the commandment to follow? And he says, love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Mm-hmm. And as important as that is love others, love your neighbor as you would love yourself. Love you. So loving God with everything you are, that's with everything you say to people, everything you do, and treating people with that love. Not just, I praise God, thank you God, get out of my face. It's an everyday thing. It's kind of trying to treat people like they are as special as God sees them. Put it that way.
First of all, it's not that hot. It is not that hot. I am telling
hot.
you.
Well, you had 3 layers. It is getting warm.
I did.
I mean, maybe it's okay. So is there growing up, and by growing up, I really mean in my first 40 years of life. Growing up in the church, and I always thought there were these people who were, I don't know, I didn't really like it when people seemed excessively holy or excessively praise Jesus, and we're out on the street hanging out and praise Jesus. But is there a connection between worship and evangelism and the way that we connect with people who are outside of the church?
Well, I'll go to my growing up. I'll go to my growing up story, which I was a kid. Now, back in my day, we didn't have the internet. So thank God we didn't have smartphones and the internet. But we had my little red TV, and I would stay up late. I would sneak watch turning on the TV all the time.
And when you watched Howdy Doody...
No. That was a syndication. No, it was in the 70s and in the 80s. When I was a teenager.
No. I was growing up in the 80s.
I was in college in the 80s.
Okay.
First 4 years. Graduated class of 85, Bentley College. Woo! We don't have a college hoot. Just hoot! That's what we used to do. It's kind of weird. But I'd watch late night. I'd watch reruns. That's how I discovered the Holy Grail.
Okay.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I have not seen it.
Really?
I have not.
That just killed the entire conversation. You have not seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
We're going to stop this episode here.
I know. We have to go watch the movie.
And
So-
Marty will be more educated.
So
Oh my word.
I feel like I need to say this. I know you said the stuff you grew up on. I have a natural bias against English TV. I don't know what it is. As soon as I see it, I don't like it. Or specifically comedy.
Interesting. Are you not English?
I am. I'm English and German. But as soon as I see English TV or it's kind of that grainy, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a
they're all
slightly,
grainy,
it's like a slight thing going on. Like it took me, Carrie wanted to watch Downton Abbey. And it took me literally, I think it's a decent show. I had to get rid of what I perceived as a British thing going on. Anyways,
Wow.
I digress.
Okay. That totally threw me off. What the heck were we talking? Oh yeah, growing up. So anyway, I would wander into these televangelist shows. These Pete.
Speaking of bias.
Well, I mean, I grew up Catholic, and so that's so much more conservative. Nobody's up there with their arms raised and everything, and everybody has different views of the different denominations, but I didn't like it. I always had this sort of like yearning in my heart to worship God, and whatever that meant, and that term wasn't even in my vocabulary, the way I'd see on PTL. And not the guys, not the Jim Bakers with the hair and the Tammy Faye Bakers, she had 2 Ks in her name, with all the makeup. I mean, I knew immediately most of these people were just swindling the people in the audience.
Yeah.
Not all, but some. I was fascinated by the people in the audience. They would be doing stuff, and talking about the evangelizing. I mean, these people were evangelizing this I was a teenager, but this kid watching TV late at night because they had their arms up, they were praying, they weren't always. they had something that I was missing. So, I had this, like I said, everybody's got this empty spot, we like to say, the God hole, whatever, but there was something I wanted and I didn't know what it was. I mean, again, I was a teenager, so I was also competing with other non-biblical yearnings, that we all had. So that was a constant fight.
Like what, Dan?
Oh, nothing. Just got to move on, yeah. But no, just typical stuff. It's the one side and the other, the two angels on your shoulder.
Yeah.
But I would see them, and whatever it was, they just were lost in some kind of joyous connection to God. And I believed in God with all my heart. I didn't really know Jesus that well. He was always a cartoon character from Sunday school. But when I watched them, by the praying, they didn't care that other people were around them. They didn't care there was a TV camera aimed at them. There were a few that got caught on camera and they looked like, why did I listen to my friend and come to this thing? They were like, whoa. But most people were just
Genuinely worship.
they were unabashedly praising God for whatever was going on in their life. And you don't know what's going on. There was no subtitles to their prayers, but it was something. And I would see that, and it made me want to know more. And it took years before I could. I found a church that was like that. But that's evangelizing. When you can openly and not like alienate people, but truly with your heart, praise God. And other people around you that everybody's got some kind of, everybody needs something. And they see that and they think, I'm intrigued by that. I want that. Whatever that is, I want to know more. That's evangelizing. And you're not even knocking on that door and saying, hi, do you know Jesus? No, you just know Jesus, and people want to, and you're showing joy. I mean, they may not even be happy looking, but there's some joyous connection that they're making, and it's a living by example.
I like that. It's like a connection between authenticity and spirituality, that and transparency.
Yeah.
Because I think the flip side of that coin is like, we've all seen things in worship services where it's like, oh, come on, like that's got to be fake, or that's got, like, what is that,
like what,
well, for me now, again, if any of you guys out there are super charismatic, I am not, and I have baggage. Okay, so don't misunderstand me here. This is yeah, I do. So this is coming out of a place. I'm just telling a story here. But like when I would see people, speaking in tongues, or like, just getting really into worship, but like they would just have this like super fake smile plastered on their face, and they're in worship, and I get that there's some element of like fake it till you make it, or just worshiping when you don't feel like you want to, right? I get that there's some element of that, but then there's, I don't know, there's another line that you cross where it's just like, okay, this is now inauthentic, like it's all happy, and there's some other reality here that needs to be addressed, But like now, I got the same thing as you. Now, and when I became a Christian, it was like 2002, 2003, and Chris Tomlin and Passion conferences were all the rage, and I would see, the videos, and I would listen to the songs of that kind of thing, and I would see, the people there worshiping. But then there was like my local church experience, which I will not divulge which church it was at, but I would see people and I'm like, oh, that's inauthentic, Oh.
Well, did you know those people? Like personally?
Some of them. Yeah.
Were they blowing the trumpet in Zion, the shofar?
We got to get one of those.
I mean, so along with that, let's talk about this, because I think it's such a. How about, like, the more you invest in a church, the more you see behind the wheel or behind the curtain, right? Yes. And so that brings a whole new, because why we invest in a church is because we have these deep beliefs and longings, and sometimes it's like, how do you do this and worship? Because obviously we have a small church. I don't know how many people are listening that go to the church, but it's probably a decent amount of the people. Like, how do you see behind the curtain and at the same time step into worship in that way?
Well, and that's why I asked if you knew the people, because I think sometimes it's two sides of a coin. One is, like Paul would say in his letter to whichever church it was, I forget, talking about a church that did all the, what's the word you used?
Inauthentic.
No, the type of worship that.
Oh, charismatic.
Charismatic.
Yeah.
He would see that a certain church, it seemed like it was almost a show. It wasn't. It was at least he must have thought so, because he said, "Listen, this is a paraphrase. You need to tone it down a little bit, because for somebody coming in, like the speaking in tongues, he was speaking of specifically, because if you're gonna speak in tongues, you need to have an interpreter, etc., so that other people around you don't think you're drunk." I think he actually says those words. But on the other side, and again, so I've seen people here speaking in tongues, and I knew the people, and that's where I think it happens. Where if you know them better, if you're investing in a church, you have a personal relationship with these people, and then you see them slam, speaking in tongues or doing whatever they're doing, raising their arms, singing at the top of their voice off key. Like I do. That's almost a witness to your people that you know, because you're saying, wow, he's not putting on airs like I'm too good to do this. It's like, I could care less what you think. I'm praising my God. I'm worshiping my God. I was at a church at a certain town. I think one of the churches here, years ago, I was trying to find a church, and they had a moment where they would play a somber song, not somber, but people would come to the front of the church, and they would kneel down at the front of the altar, and there was a time where you just wait. If you didn't want to do it, you didn't have to do it, but other people did. And it was a sort of forgive me, Lord, I'm a sinner kind of moment for people. And they didn't care who was watching them come up.
Yeah.
It was a Holden Chapel, I think, that used to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something attractive about giving God like just unfettered access to your heart, and like you mentioned, not caring as much about, look, these other people, they might think I'm silly, they might think I'm stupid, but that's not what I'm here for.
Well, I'd probably draw the line with snakes.
Yeah.
Well, on that example, because I think
Flags too.
Yeah. Well, there's something that holds us back sometimes on doing that. Like being, like I said, Catholic, you didn't do any of that outward stuff. And I went to a church when I first met Linda, my wife, and she was going to New England Chapel, and it's a great church. It's very Chaffin-like. It was my first evangelical type of. You felt the spirit in the room. You knew this is a good place to be, and it's a place I dreamed of going. They had 500 people per service. Still do. I haven't been there in a while, but nobody ever raised their hand. There was no arms raised. Worship was great music, great band, modern contemporary music, except for one person. His name is Matt, and Matt's got brain damage. Now, I'm not saying that as a comment. He actually does. When you meet him, he tells you he had an accident when he was a teenager, and it caused brain damage. And so he was always struggling with that. But when we started services, he's always up in the front corner. Those songs played. He's the only one with his arms up in the air. And he was praising Jesus. And
out of 500 people,
yes.
And there was like rock and roll music, and one person.
And that was just Matt. And I would look at him going,
shocking.
oh. And I know a lot of people would think, oh, I want to do that. But nobody does. It's almost like you need to break the ice,
Well, the church was called New England Chapel.
It is New England Chapel.
New Englanders aren't really known
No.
for the hand raising or the snake taming or
the snake
or
taming.
any of that.
No, we had
kind of
snakes.
thing,
We had snakes.
We had the Puritans. They were actually known for robust worship and
Were they?
singing loudly. Now
When they weren't killing witches.
Yeah, that but in their little you know, it had to be in a very specific place and time. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, they didn't go out and do it in the bars or anything.
No, they outside of religious service, they were very quiet and mild mannered and everything. But yeah, funny how over the years, you know, our church services have come to be known to be probably the most tame around. You know?
Not ours.
Who's our? Who do you mean?
New England. New England.
New England. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think it depends on where too, and what church.
Unless the Patriots are in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
Well, that church.
Every church just goes crazy.
Go church. What? So, what are some things that get in the way of our worship? If we're supposed to worship every day, what are some things besides the toddlers in our midst? What are some things that get in the way of our worship, Dan? Talk to me.
Well, I wouldn't rule out the toddlers. Let's not be too hasty here.
I'm with you.
I got a 3-year-old at home. I think what spawns the just uncontrolled, unabashed want to worship, and however that means, it's not all. I'm not talking just arms in the air. It's just being open about your faith, being unashamed of your faith. But I think you need to go back to what's the core root of it. I mean, it's acknowledging that you need God. You need Him. It isn't, I'm being good because I'm coming to church, so I'm doing what I'm supposed to. It's no. I'm a sinner. I need you. I need you for everything. And then looking at your life, good or bad at the moment, and saying, thank you. You know, thank you that I am able to worship. Thank you that I have a house, that I have, even if you've lost your house, I have my family. You know, you can go on and on and on. You can go all the way down to the Job level of life, and you could still say, thank you, you know, because the world is still here. You know, it's
I like that, the Job level of life.
Yeah.
The Job level.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Not the last chapter, but everything else.
Yeah.
And but it's if you foster, and this is something that I lose focus of all the time, which is just forgetting to be grateful. But when you're grateful, at New England Chapel, when I first started going to that, I still remember the day, maybe 3 or 4 weeks into going, I joined a men's group, and we said they did a church cleanup day. It was in the spring, I think. I don't know, but so I had just cleaned all the bathrooms, or cleaned one of the bathrooms, and I was up on a ladder. And I'm not tooting my own horn here. I just want to give an example. I'm up on a ladder changing light bulbs.
Stories that start this way never end well.
Never do. No. This one's okay. I got out of the bathroom, and I'm changing light bulbs, and I'm literally crying. I mean, subtly because I'm a guy, but I mean I'm emotional because
Your eyes were sweating.
As if
my
you
eyes
just,
were sweating.
As if you just finished Armageddon, the movie.
don't keep bringing that up. It breaks my heart. That's so beautiful, man. Game over, man. No, wrong movie. You haven't seen that one either. And I'm changing life, and I'm all emotional because since I was a kid, wanting that PTL, like I'm at a church finally. It took me 50 years, 45 years to get to a point where I have the confidence to say, I need to go to a church that I want to be at. And I'm changing light bulbs, and I'm so grateful in that moment to be able to change light bulbs. He's going to keep the shirt on, I hope.
I swear. You stop it.
Ryan just keeps taking a layer
I'm
off
about
for those
to
of
go
you
check
listening to the
the thermostat.
podcast.
It's like 68 degrees.
It's getting toasty in here. It's getting
Both of you stop.
Dan is getting red. Like, you can totally
I'm
see.
not going to. I'm so glad I didn't wear an undershirt. That
Marty
Alba
did
was
just
complaining to me.
spend a few days in Florida, so maybe
Yeah.
he's more acclimated to.
At my beach house.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Foster gratitude. Oh, but you know, and sometimes you just have to get yelled at.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Warrior Conference. You know,
Okay.
every year we go to the Warrior Conference. It's a men's conference. It's an obnoxious name, but it's a great.
Those of us who love
conference.
Jesus do, yes.
Yes, those of us who love Jesus. And have not. Have you been?
He has been.
Oh, you have been. You have been.
Been
Oh,
to
yeah.
3 of them. Yeah.
Have you
my-
been to 3? Wow.
You went to 3? Oh, I've been to 1. My second one I went to, though, just so I don't digress too much.
Too late.
We had this amazing speaker. He was
horrible.
He was a testosterone-fueled guest speaker.
Oh, this one.
Yeah,
I remember that.
He was
guy.
a man's man. Oh yeah, he had his entourage, and he he needed humility and a better attitude toward women. We'll put it that way. But I had two takeaways from his talk when I left. The first is I should spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on sports cars and talk about it all the time.
Okay.
That was a big one.
Okay.
Secondly, he said we have a duty, and then he would flex his muscles because he had prodigious muscles. I'm flexing my muscles for you podcast people.
You'd be like flexing his muscle with one arm, and then you'd be pointing.
Constantly.
The other.
He was always flexing. I don't know how he could get through all these messages.
Well, he was part of a group called the Power Team in years before, and they would go around in the 80s and evangelistically do power things. They all had massive muscles.
Yeah.
Steroids. And they would at the end tell people about Jesus.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anything short of sin to show
Anything short of sin. But the thing I took away, and he was right, is that he scolded all the men to say, now he was specifically talking about, again, I keep saying this isn't just arms in the air, but he was talking about when you're at church, at your home church, you raise your arms in the air and you set the example for the rest of your family and the people around you. It's okay to worship. And he's right. Now, it doesn't mean you have to do that. But when you're at church, when you're with your family, if you're not giving them permission, and that's kind of a key thing, is when you're publicly, when you're not afraid to worship in however form that takes for you around other people, when you're not afraid to, you're giving the others around you permission. And we've seen it here, where one thing we talk about with the music is that the people's voices aren't drowned out by the band. And then so people sing, you hear people sing. We're not putting on a show. If nobody sang, and it's happened, nobody sings, and it's kind of awkward, or nobody, you ask somebody in a class asks for an answer and nobody gives it to you, that's awkward. But when you're setting the tone for your church, it gives people permission to do it as well. And
that's good.
Yeah, I've taken that to heart.
So along those lines, in church, a lot of people put on a happy face a lot of times, but to his point, giving people permission to have joy, even in a church setting, is important because guys, a lot of times, are very prideful, ego-driven. What about, there are a lot of Christians who do not exemplify joy. And I don't mean happiness. I mean, they're one of my favorite people in the world. I don't think you guys knew her. Her name was Pauline. And she passed away shortly after Carrie and I got married, 2006, 2007. But she, big part of our lives, was not overly happy. Matter of fact, her story goes for years, she was not treated well by her husband beforehand. Okay, so there was a lot of, so she wasn't overly happy, but when you talk to her, there was a spiritual depth and a joy in her that was outstanding. Why are there so many Christians that don't have joy?
That's to me.
That is either of you.
Well,
answer it before I do, my friends.
Well, it's a good distinction you said. She didn't seem all that happy.
Yeah.
But she had joy. I mean, there doesn't have to be one-on-one. Like the people, like I said, I see in the audience when I was a teenager at these televangelist things, they weren't all smiling. Some of them looked miserable, but they looked enraptured in their. If you've got no friends, right? You grow up. I have my friend Kevin. Hey, Kevin. Growing up, I had a friend. I knew kids.
Does Kevin not have any friends?
No. I didn't have any. I didn't. I was kind of a loner in school.
Oh, so not you were?
Yeah, me and Kevin we live across the street from each other. But me, I was alone. I didn't have any real. At school. So I know what it's like sometimes to feel like something goes on, and I was just so shy. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
That you get joy when you have friends, right? They will bring it out on you. Even if they have to annoy the boogers out of you to get it out. But it's knowing there's somebody next to you, right? There's somebody walking next to you.
Oh, that's good.
So if you truly want to say, I'm yours, Lord, what that means is you suddenly have not only like the creator of the universe becomes your best friend. And even if things are bad, I know you dissed the walking in the sand thing a couple of weeks ago.
Well, no, I said it's cheesy, but it actually makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, I used to. That was a big poster for when I saw that. I go, that's awesome.
No,
Anonymous.
I was
Anonymous
promoting
is a
it.
great writer.
I think it makes sense.
And it's a great image because when you're, even in your darkest moment, and I've had some dark moments, knowing you're not alone. And when you have friends, you're not alone, right?
Yeah, it's good.
You may not be happy, but there's a joy in that.
Yeah, I just want to bounce off something you just said, like dark times, right?
Yeah.
We all have them. I think as Christians, we need to expect to experience the full range of emotions, perhaps even more so than non-believers in some sense, because like Christians should feel free to be honest about the way we're feeling, that we're really feeling, both with God and in our churches. We should feel free to be honest about that, even if we're miserable. We got to be honest about it. And I think a lot of the reason why Christians don't have a lot of joy is because they don't take time to properly mourn things, lament things, because so much of the church in America is obsessed with winning. Like have you ever noticed, like in church, like every testimony we tell it, and I think it comes from the right place. We're trying to make God look good, right? Where every testimony, it's like it starts off with something horrible. Oh, my family died in a plane crash, right? But then something awesome happened. Oh God raised them from the dead, or whatever crazy thing happens, or
a song played at just the right time.
And then I eventually got over it, and I found a new family, or whatever, right? And what if we were just like really honest, and the testimonies we told just like stopped in the middle? Like we're thinking about like true worshiping in truth, right? Like what if some of our testimonies were, hey, this thing happened and it really sucked, and then you just stop, right? It's sad, right? But you have to, like, we have to tell those stories where we're in the thick of it, and like and you know what? Despite that, I'm still here. I'm still at the church. I'm still worshiping, and God is still moving. I trust God. I know God is still doing things, but right now I'm not winning. And God isn't rescuing me right now. It doesn't look like it, And so, I think
powerful.
Yeah, people who don't have joy typically are that I've seen are a lot are trying to Americanize their faith, right? They're trying to we're all winning, we're winning.
Yes.
We win in the end.
Yeah.
Well, that's an important point, because that is the hope that we have as Christians, that we will. Well, so I just today, a friend of mine.
I was going to ask, do you always go on Facebook and just randomly search while we're talking during this thing?
I am totally doing that right now. No, in fact, I don't have Facebook on my phone, so
right. That's right.
I just had to type it in to the browser, which is a lame experience. I'm not sure if you've ever done that on the phone.
Early 2000s.
So I used to do it on my Verizon wireless phone. I can't remember what even kind. So a friend of mine who wrote the Eugene Peterson
thing.
biography last year, or this year, 2021,
It came out this year,
March. He posted this picture today, and it's Jesus washing his disciples' feet, and he says, "Jesus invited us to die. Why does so much of our energy and angst act like," he said, "win?" Ironically, my friend's name is Win.
Well, I had a friend in seminary, and he was just this really, I don't remember anything else about this guy, honestly, but he had this one super funny thing he would do whenever anyone came in with like good news, like, hey, I got engaged, or, I had such a good birthday party yesterday. And he would be like, well, you win some, you lose some. He'd be like, why are you saying that? And then he'd be like, well, because you know what? No one ever says that when people win. And I want to say it when people win and they lose. Because you know what? We need to be reminded that we don't just win. Sometimes we lose.
That's really interesting because most of the time people say it when you lose.
Exactly.
As a positive.
Exactly.
It's like a half full, half empty thing.
Exactly.
That's really
so,
good.
So he would say it then, and we would all just be like, "You're confusing me in like the best way possible. I know it, but it's so awkward, you know."
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And what that does, honestly, is it helps people understand that we can worship through bad and difficult circumstances.
And that's where like the fake it till you make it. Sometimes you just don't feel like it.
Yeah,
You know, but
yeah.
you do it anyway.
And some of my best church, quote unquote, big C church experiences, like for men's groups or coming to church or coming to a meeting.
At New England Chapel.
Well, anywhere, even here.
I love how your tone just trails on.
Yeah.
Even here.
Even here. I just wanted to
You
kind
win
of
some, you lose some. But thinking you've all been through this. You don't want to go, whatever it is. I don't want to go tonight. Everything sucks. You know,
Yeah.
I don't like that word, but anyway, everything stinks, and I mean, it's just you're wallowing in your misery. You're in your mud. You don't want to go. Those are the times you have to go, because when you go there, for me at least, it's always turned around to be, I'm so glad I went. You know,
Yeah.
so it's the fake it till you make it in a way. It's just go and let the Spirit do His work, because
Right.
there's something about and worship isn't just singing songs. Worship is living your life. So it's going. If I always say a big thing for service. If you're really in the pits, do something for somebody else. You know, one of my mottos has always been service is worship. It's a great form of worship.
Yeah,
serve
absolutely.
other people. You know, do what Jesus said to do.
So like so just kind of looping back around here. So the everyday thing, right? So like we talked.
every day. It's you I live for.
That was like my favorite worship
90s.
song back in the day.
I think it was early 2000s.
It's like 2003. So, ooh, yeah, well, I know because it was one of the big.
Mark 13:6. It's on
So-
a tattoo.
So, worshiping every day specifically. Can you just give us some examples? Because you actually just gave us one, which was just doing something for other people, right? What are some other things, just practical things people can do to worship every day?
Well, I mean, from my own experience, I think a biggest form of worship, and I think I've said this in some way. Don't take a picture while I'm scratching my nose. Is pursuing that relationship with Jesus, pursuing that relationship with God all the time, acknowledging that He is the center of your life, and running with it, knowing that He's with you. And when you acknowledge that, it's like even with your kids. If your kids ignore you, that hurts. But if your kids are saying, "I love you, Dad," or "I love you, Mom," or it's the acknowledgement. Now, that being said, you talk to Him. I mean, worship is God wants a relationship with you. He wants to be the center of your life. So if you do that by talking to Him, and we call it prayer, but I'm not talking about saying an Our Father every 15 minutes. It's God, I'm really upset right now, or help me out right here. I can't talk to my kid right now. I'm angry. It's a constant flow. Praying out loud, praying with your kids, praying with your spouse. That's another way of doing it. I mean, that's a bonding thing. But it's a practice that we're not good at. None of us are good at, you know, except for maybe monks, because they don't have all the distractions, except for the beer. So, I mean, it's just
and jellies.
and jellies for the Central Mass. But you worship God by constantly, consciously putting Him in the center of your life and treating Him like He is, you know. And that means, of course, treating others as well. But it's a worship in its basis form of worship is acknowledging God's there, knowing He's there, like a child. You know?
I think also responding to every person inside and outside of the church with "Amen, brother" or "sister"
Yes.
is a great way to worship practically.
Yes.
Yes, fighting for prayer in schools.
And if you're mad at somebody, just say, "Bless your soul."
Bless you, child.
Bless you, child.
All right, so service
Yeah.
and
Prayer life and
Prayer life.
and openly. Yeah, I mean, that's where it gets big. You know, we can always stick to
It's
just.
almost, it sounds like what you're saying is it's part of it is it's almost like a mindset more than like, hey, I have to carve out this specific time in the day, although that would be helpful. But
Yeah.
but there's a mindset to it as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If you're constantly fostering a God is with me, God is here all the time, and it naturally you start thinking Him as a friend, without losing that fear and reverence of God. I mean, He created everything. And then it's just a matter of trying to live your life out that way.
Can I ask Marty a question here, actually? And I promise I'm not asking this to like make fun of you or whatever. But tell me about Christian radio for a second. So no, for real, tell me about Christian radio because I know it's something that you enjoy.
Yep.
It seems like you genuinely enjoy it. I don't. I really don't. But
Yeah.
But how is that in terms of worshiping every day? How has that impacted your?
Great question. I am going to say something else first and then move into that because I think it's important, and it's like and it answers your earlier question about the practical nature. One of the things that Paul says that we do when we worship is we do everything as to the Lord. And Ryan, you do this very well. And you do it in a way that's not like certain places I've been take excellence, the idea of excellence, and they make an idol out of it.
Yeah.
Right? Excellence without grace is just big business.
Yeah.
And I think you do things really well. And so I think that's a way we can worship. So how that leads into Christian radio. A lot of times, so I loved Christian radio around the time I was 17 in my hometown, maybe 16. There was a Christian radio station that was put on. They played stuff like DC Talk, and it was from Toledo, Ohio. And I actually drove there. I had my license. I drove there and I got to see them. And it actually impacted my college degree. I graduated with a broadcasting communications degree. So fast forward I went to Pensacola Christian College, and they made me put away my Christian music and all that.
Yeah.
So I came out of there and listened to Christian music some more, and enjoyed it, and kind of evolved into moving away from Christian music to any kind of music. And there was, obviously, like anything else, there were opportunities to worship through multiple forms of non-Christian music. So now that I'm 46, right, and K-Love came on when I was 44. I understand we gotta fly here. It came on. I was at a time when, just personally, I was making choices. Like I had just taken this job as a pastor of Chaffin, and I had come through kind of like a time when I wanted to be cool Christian instead of just Christian.
Right.
Right? And I wanted to put, there was essentially an adjective I wanted for years. Maybe it was even an obsession for years, even back into the early 90s.
I just want to stop Marty right here. Like, what Marty is sharing with you guys right now, like, this is deep. Like, I'm assuming some of this even took therapy to do. Like, you're making it sound like it's easy because you're good at this, but like, you're digging deep.
Yeah, I mean, I essentially realized that with the help of actually, counseling and Carrie, my wife, was like, I was pursuing an adjective before the word Christian.
Yeah.
And that was to be a cool Christian. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there are so many reasons why I could have been doing that. So I come back to K-Love, right? K-Love is a machine. Okay? Yeah. It is a ministry machine. They're putting out the same music, the same 20 songs. It's like top 40 for Christians, right? Yeah. However, I generally like the music, and I understand it's hitting my spirit without even thinking about it. Right? And I'm kind of past, maybe I've even discipled myself away from, or other people have discipled me away from the cool Christian mentality. Right? So all I know is I'm listening to it. I'm also hearing my kids listen to it. And I understand that there's going to come a time when they hate K-Love.
Yeah.
Some of them are already there, right? But what they don't understand is it's getting in their head and their heart. And so there's so many reasons around, like, I'm not married to K-Love in terms of, like, I do like it.
Yeah.
I understand it's a machine. It's that somebody's making money off it. All of that stuff.
Right.
However, it does something good, and it does point me on a regular basis. Whereas, I mean, let's say in the early 2000s, I was really into like AAF. I have no problem with AAF. I love AAF, like I loved past tense.
Ironically, now it's the same.
Ironically, now it's K-Love. Right. But if I put on a song, let's say by Disturbed or like Linkin Park, right? That's not a bad song. Like their first two albums were genius. Where I Belong, What I've Done. We played that in church before. But that's not necessarily bringing me to a place of worshiping every day. Not that it's a sin, but I'm trying to a little bit be intentional about the direction I'm headed.
Well, yeah, because like I mentioned about the way we worship is a way of giving other people permission. It's a way of evangelizing people just by saying, I'm yours. So it's the same way if we need to make sure that we get evangelized. And if you're listening to that music, in a way, the more you hear, the more you surround yourself, the more you give yourself permission.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems with Christianity in our modern age is there's one person who's type A that's leading the way, and that person dictates the way they live that culture out.
Yeah.
So everybody listens to K-Love. If you're on my team, you're going to listen to K-Love all the time. You're going to listen to Christian music. You're going to do this. You're going
to wear this. You're going to say
this. And so it's become this massive thing instead of like, my evolution in terms of my spiritual faith is now, for 20 years, I hated Christian music after DC Talk folded. Now,
still bitter.
I'm kind of learning through it, and I'm back there, and that's kind of interesting to me. So that's kind of hope answers that question.
That's a good answer.
And I hope that you've learned from that. We're coming to the end, so I'm going to rush through Chaffin Good News. Dan, thanks for joining us.
No, it's fun. It's always fun. Hopefully this time you hear me. Last time I was like this little mouse talking in the big voices.
Tammy Foy?
Tammy's
birthday was this week. Yep. Ashley Vigo and Brian Belmore. Now, I bring Brian up because he's an avid listener on YouTube, or viewer on YouTube, and he's commented several times. So, Brian, happy birthday to you. I think your birthday's coming up. I also wanted to mention that we participated in the Halloween in Holden event from the Chamber of Commerce here in Holden, and kids came and grabbed some candy and celebrated a little Halloween here, so that's awesome. That's what I got. You guys got anything else? A couple announcements?
We can do the time change in November.
Yeah. So next week, we are...
Good.
What is next week? Week is the 7th.
Next week is the 7th. So so this is the last week. It's going to be a 10 o'clock service.
Yes. In the future, you'll see this live at 10:30.
10:30.
And so then we have some big weekends coming up. The 13th and the 14th is our generosity weekend, where we'll have. I think this may be the first time you guys. Anybody knows this?
What this is.
Well, you know, but the Food and Code Drive is on the 13th.
Yeah.
We're having Cram the Van, bring frozen turkeys here to 155 Shrewsbury Street. We're going to cram the Friendly House Van on the 14th with frozen turkeys, and they're going to give those out in Worcester. Also, my friend Dave Huey will be here for that weekend.
Dave Huey. we?
Yeah, and for Hungry for a Day, they have a ministry in Atlanta, and he's coming to visit, so I invited him to come and have a conversation with me the week before we relaunch.
Lunch.
And so our relaunch weekend is coming on the 20th, November 20th. We're going to have a
21st.
So the 21st is the real.
the 20th is a pastor prayer night.
Oh,
Which is.
sorry.
Do you have that on your calendar?
I do.
That's totally awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's so
I've
cool.
never heard anybody do it, but somebody probably has. But hopefully,
So the pastors from all around are going to come and pray for Chaffin the night before.
Absolutely.
Open up.
And then finally, the 21st is our big relaunch. We want you to be a part of that here at 155 Shrewsbury Street at 9 or 10:30 for that particular day.
I know we have 3 seconds, but should I bother mentioning the way we're changing the kids' service around, or is that?
No,
No.
don't mention. We'll
Screw
We'll give Dan a chance to do that next week. I think,
I had one bit of news.
I think Dan
One
needs,
bit.
he needs a week to cool off, and then he can
go ahead and say it real
No,
quick.
no, no.
Real
No,
quick.
I'm just joking.
No, say it.
All right. All right, anyway, so the kids are changing. We're not going to do the whole service. The kids, all kids of Chaffin, when you come in, worship with your family. We'll do the story, and then we'll send you down.
Hey,
With
also,
tax.
giving.
Give.
You want to do this part? You did it so well last week.
Oh,
that was,
thank you.
that
Thank
was
you.
like really
Bless
excellent.
your heart. So giving. So we can't do what we do here without the faithfulness of the people that give to Chaffin Church. And we would just love it if you got anything out of this podcast. We would really appreciate it if you could just hop on chaffin.church and go to the giving button at the top right and pay some of it forward. Help us out a little bit. Like I said, we're not able to do stuff like this without the faithfulness of people like you. And this is something I say every week because I think it's really cool. All of those gifts are 100% tax deductible.
Do you know why I stuck my finger in my nose while you were saying that?
I did not.
I just felt the urge.
Thanks for joining us. This has been Chaffin Good News.
Now go and give some out.